side, not truth and justice. If we have no truth and we have no justice, then we have no nation of laws.
Right.
That was Mitch McConnell back then. As Philip Bump pointed out in the Washington Post today, 14 of today's current U.S. senators voted to hold Bill Clinton accountable for obstruction of justice. If this new BuzzFeed report that the president directed Michael Cohen to lie to Congress is true, will Republicans hold President Trump to the same standards that they held Bill Clinton? Let's bring in tonight's Hardball Roundtable. Andy Carney's a White House reporter for the New York Times. Jonathan Capron, of course, and Jennifer Rubin are both opinion writers for the Washington Post. And you first, Andy. I think the question is consistency. Do we expect it?
Well, first of all, if this story turns out to be true, it carries serious implications for the president.
That's what I got to listen to routinely almost every day by a damn blooming idiot coming out here honking the horn and disturbing the peace. That was the very thing that caused my brother David, between that and all the other aggravation, towards putting him in an early grave. And to think that these same people had the audacity of blaming me that I had put my brother in an early grave just tells you how demented and how evil and barbaric and cruel that these people around here are. So sad. So sad, James Henry.
All these flackery lines in history.
Right, they're not
accurate.
And the description of what was said. Now, maybe I'm being overly lawyer-like and not being a lawyer, but those were two things that jumped out at me. And the interesting thing will be, how do the two BuzzFeed reporters respond? How do they report on this statement? How do they interpret?
Jennifer, one question I have right off the bat is, why are they responding? Mueller responds to nada, hasn't responded to anything in a year.
That is the biggest question, I think, and I can't figure out a good answer to that. Now, in addition to what Jonathan saw, what I see is a denial that these things were told to the special prosecutor's office, to this office. So perhaps they occurred, perhaps they were told to a different set of prosecutors, i.e. the Southern District, but not to this office. But why he would go to this length to deny a story when, as you say, there have been so many other misinformation, misstatements, and the special counsel has never done that. It is very hard to pierce and figure out what is going through his mind and why he would go to that extreme on this.
Any of your thoughts? You're reporting.
It just popped, so I haven't done reporting since I've been sitting right here, but this statement certainly raises more questions than it answers, especially the strangeness of the spokesman that never speaks, which is the Mueller spokesman issuing a statement.
Okay, we have another party that's trying to shut up this witness, trying to shut up this whole story. His name is Donald Trump. And Godfather 2, he's scaring the witness into not talking by saying, I may go after your father-in-law. It does remind me of Pantangelo's brother coming back from Sicily. I'm sorry.
It does, right. Great scene, by the way. But yes, why would he bring this up? I mean, and in public, it's so bizarre and so atrocious and that's sort of the pattern of Donald Trump. If he did this in private, it would be a horror scandal. He does it in public, so people are sort of inured to it and kind of take it for granted. I don't know that the
It's just the behavior of an innocent man. He says, I don't want the truth. I don't want you talking.
And watch your father-in-law while you're at it.
And he does it consistently. This is not the first time he's gone after Cohen's father-in-law. He did it with Jeanine Pirro when he called into her show, and he's done it once before that. So he's it's a consistent pattern here that he's trying to put Cohen's father in rhetorical crosshair.
Is the father? Let me go Andy on this, because Trump has this schoolyard bullies technique. If he senses anything about your look, your height, anything about you, he gets after it. You're low energy, you're little, or anything. You do whatever. In this case, he thinks Mr. Cohen's worried about his father-in-law, because that means he's worried about the marriage, he's worried about his wife, worried about the whole family, not just the father-in-law. But I thought the father's legal business was behind him many years.
Yeah,
it's over.
I mean, you're right that Cohen is someone that Trump knows really well, so he would know if the family is a vulnerability here. He can push on that bruise. But this is, the tweets today at Cohen, are kind of in line with him pushing the limit of what.
Just like they pushed on my bruise because I put out my testimony to the general public and I revealed that in which what happened to me up in Kentucky pertaining to Lisa and Gary Hawkins and Dwayne Camry up in Land Between the Lakes, and because of it, they used that information against me towards now all these different players was coming out of the woodwork. Oh, he's a stalker. Oh, he's a stalker. A matter of fact, just within a month ago, I had people shooting at me over in Obion County, and that was one of the first things that come out of the cop's mouth. Well, if you drive down this road one more time, Mr. Jackson, I'm going to charge you for stalking. Once more, going after that bruised area, ain't they? That's exactly what David said whenever they first arrested me before David died. He said, it's just like a boxer. You never should have exposed your testimony, Juby, to the world. And if I would have thought that these demonic, witchcraft, warlock, Wiccans, and other people around here that had created so much animosity against me towards warlock, hate mongering, if I would have thought for 1 second by exposing my testimony that it was going to come back and backfire against me, I never would have exposed it. I thought that was the whole primary reason of giving your testimony in church or before the general public, was to glorify your Heavenly Father of all the things that your Heavenly Father had brought you through because of your testimony. I couldn't tell you how many different people's testimony. The guy that made the movie pertaining to Jesus Christ being crucified. I forgot the name of it now. I should remember it, but I've heard several testimonies from that guy. But because he's a movie star, they don't attack him so much like they do me. But now I have heard him talk about other people that has attacked him because of his testimony. A matter of fact, the filming of that film, of that gruesome film that was so intense that so many people went and watched, created a lot of adversity, and there was a lot of scenes in that movie during the time that they was making that movie that it was pure spiritual intervention from a supernatural standpoint that had to intervene because of the devil trying to stop the movie from ever being made. This warfare that we're involved in, pertaining to bad versus good, good versus evil, the light versus the dark versus the light, it's real. It's more realer than our world that we live in. And unless you've ever been out on the front lines towards getting bruised up, just like what this woman just got through saying, let's play this back one more time. That way you won't forget in the illustration towards what I'm talking about.
That he's done and that we've seen.
Let's back this up just about right there.
When he called into her show, and he's done it once before that. So he's making, it's a consistent pattern here, that he's trying to put Cohen's father in rhetorical crosshair.
Is the father, let me go Andy on this, because Trump has this schoolyard bullies technique. If he senses anything about your look, your height, anything about you, he gets after it. You're low energy, you're little, or anything, you do whatever. In this case, he thinks Mr. Cohen's worried about his father-in-law, because that means he's worried about the marriage, he's worried about his wife, worried about the whole family, not just the father-in-law. But I thought the father's legal business was behind him many years.
Yeah,
it's over.
I mean, you're right that Cohen is someone that Trump knows really well, so he would know if the family is a vulnerability here. He can push on that bruise.
He can push on that bruise. See, whenever you expose yourself the way that I did, by putting out all my DVDs, and plus using Facebook as a platform, and now YouTube as a platform, people can take that information and use it against you. Kind of like whenever I got pulled over down there in Dyersburg, the information had already been released about falsifying files, which gives the implication of someone who has terrorist type implications. It don't actually mean that you're a terrorist, but you have terrorist type implications. Kind of like if you was in a school and you pulled down the fire alarm, or you was in the middle of a theater and you cried, "Fire, fire, fire." You're creating a terrorist type implication. And because that word had gotten out pertaining to one of the laws that's in the books, now I get pulled over the first year. Actually, I think it was the second year that I was really putting out a lot of material, driving my truck and issuing out my message. I get pulled over by a bunch of Dyersburg cops down there simply because they tried to make it out like I didn't have proper mirrors because I didn't have a third mirror in top of my windshield. Thing about it is, I had two mirrors on both sides of the truck. But they tried to use that same ideology towards falsifying files because I was bringing so much alarm to the business owners in Dyersburg, Tennessee. And I questioned the cop. I said, if I was really going to be doing something heinous or something illegal, do you really think that I would be driving around with my automobile all decorated up with all these different stickers and all these different crosses? Do you think that I would be so flamboyant if that was my intentions towards wanting to bring fear, like I was some sort of a robber or some sort of a bad guy? Something has happened to a great deal of the cops in America, or it has right around in this area. I can't vouch for all America, but something has happened to them to the point that they're taking good measure and using it as the devil's advocate. And they're doing it in a very, very bizarre, crafty way, but they're trying to take the good works of the saints and say that they're bad. And the reason why is because so many of these cops are either possessed by the devil or they're followers of the devil, and they have been so adjusted to calling bad good and calling good bad, they're twisted. They're messed up in their minds. They're messed up in their hearts. Their whole concept, their whole demeanor, the dynamics, the way that they see things is altered. It has been taken over. Sad. Really, really, really sad to think that they have become so perverted. And whenever you use the word perverted, the first thing you think of is sex. There's all kinds of ways a person can become perverted and it not have a cotton-picking thing to do with sex.
But this is, the tweets today at Cohen are kind of in line with him pushing the limit of witness tampering that he's done, and that we've seen this gray area in the past, him commanding Sessions to end the special counsel's investigation. He kind of goes right up to that line a lot in terms of, is this witness tampering or is this just spouting off on Twitter?
So this seems to be the big story of the week. I think we had a big story early in the week, but as this week goes, as so many weeks lately, every day the day gets topped the next day by a bigger story. This one, I get the feeling that this is the one that's going to drive the House Impeachment Committee. Judiciary. Barry Nadler's already moving.
If it's
on
true.
hearings. They're
certainly going to have hearings, and I think this points to, I think, a very important point, which is if they can find something concrete, discrete, easily explained to the American people, that will have much more power than a very complicated tale that takes lots of Russian names to explain it. So perhaps this is too good to be checked, as they say, on this story. But they are going to be looking for these discrete acts which are easily explained and which Republicans in the past have been on record about.
It would be great. Let's bring in Ken Delaney on that when he's available. Here he is. Ken, what do you know about this news story?
Well, Chris, the special counsel's office has issued an unprecedented statement disputing a part of the BuzzFeed article. I want to read it to you. BuzzFeed's description, this is from Peter Carr, Mueller's spokesman. BuzzFeed's description of specific statements to the special counsel's office and characterization of documents and testimony obtained by this office regarding Michael Cohen's congressional testimony are not accurate. I cannot remember a statement like that coming from Mueller's office about any news report, pro or con, in the history of the special counsel's office. Chris, now let's be clear. They're not disputing the idea that Michael Cohen is testifying, is saying that Trump asked him to lie. What they're disputing is that there is all this corroborating evidence that they seized from the Trump Organization, which was a key facet of the BuzzFeed article and one of the things that lent it credibility. Chris.
Is that to protect their own integrity, that they had custody of those documents, and they don't want the word to get out that somebody got to them, because that meant somebody put them out? Is that what they're really concerned about? By the way, not accurate is an old term of art for flax. It doesn't mean it's not true. It means that maybe in certain iotas it wasn't quite true. But it doesn't deny, as you say, the thrust of the article. Your thoughts?
No, but it does.
The flackery involved here.
But they are disputing, Chris. I read this as the special counsel is disputing that they have obtained evidence from the Trump Organization, emails, documents, and testimony saying that Donald Trump asked Michael Cohen to lie. And when you think about it, that was always, I've been saying this on the air today, that is a little hard to believe that people would put that in writing, in text messages, in emails. Oh, Trump wants Cohen to lie to Congress. That's what the article suggested.
Yeah.
That was the hardest part of it to believe. But it's also the thing that suggested that it was corroborated. It's not just the word of Michael Cohen, an admitted liar and a soon-to-be convicted felon, Chris.
Thank you so much, Ken Delaney, who is available to us tonight. Thank you, sir. You know, I have to say that this doesn't change the story for me yet. Yeah. Not accurate is an old term of art. We all know that.
Again, it opens more questions than it answers. But one thing to see is one huge story happened today. So far, it's standing out there by itself. No one else confirmed it yet. And yet it took, within hours, Democrats were calling that if this is true, the president should be impeached. It's going to be it's a reminder of how hard it's going to be for Nancy Pelosi, who claims she wants to hold off impeachment when the Mueller report comes out, that they're ready to go. And if she wants to hold it off, it's going to be very difficult for her.
Well, she has to at some point. She has to hold it up because they have to have the report first. Yeah. I think that's fair. The roundtable's sticking with us, and up next, these three will tell me something I don't know. You're watching Hardball.
Lord.
She has to hold it up because they have to have the report first.
Yeah.
So sad. What else are they going to pull out of their sleeve?
Welcome back to Hardball. We're 28 days into the government shutdown, and Donald Trump and Nancy Pelosi don't seem any closer to making a deal to reopen our government. And
what else are they going to cook up?
Tonight, Trump tweeted, "I will be making a major announcement concerning the humanitarian crisis on our southern border and the shutdown tomorrow afternoon at 3 p.m. live from the White House." Well, that's Trump. When's this going to end, Annie?
I wish I knew. No one knows where it's Friday of another week has passed. The sides are no closer than they were last Friday, potentially even worse. There's no talks. The only end that I'm hearing talk about is a declaration of a national emergency. I don't necessarily think that's what he's doing tomorrow. If you notice, the tweet said humanitarian crisis. It didn't say national emergency.
How about a stochastic variable coming in here, Jonathan? Something from outside the box. Well, something that has nothing to do with either of these personalities we're dealing with.
Well, we hope it's not something serious. I mean, people are talking about a disaster or some kind of, horrible.
How about the air traffic controllers walking off?
Well, I think is probably the most realistic scenario. Now, they're not legally allowed to do it. They're not allowed to have a wildcat strike, but they're already not appearing in very great numbers. The suck-out rate is going up. So at the point at which perhaps the Super Bowl airport is threatened with a shutdown, maybe that would get Donald Trump.
Maybe Mitch McConnell will wake up and play broker here and come up with some new war effort on border enforcement that Democrats can agree with that isn't a wall.
But that would require the president to go along. We're in this mess because the president put out a deal and then snatched it back.
Yeah, well, maybe Rush Limbaugh will retire. Anyway, thank you, Andy Carney, Jonathan Capehart, and Jennifer Rubin. Coming up next, my thoughts on the shortest road and the surest road to impeachment. You're watching Hardball.
Instantly.
Let me finish tonight with the way today's story of presidential obstruction of justice fits into history. If Donald Trump told his lawyer, fixer Michael Cohen, to lie to the Congress, we have a perfect match to what Richard Nixon was impeached for. It was right there in Article 1. The question from the beginning of the current scandal is whether the truth is what happened. The guilt of the president for a particular deed will be enough to move the Congress politically. Would he get a majority of the House of Representatives and 2/3 of the U.S. Senate to vote to remove him from office? Well, that last part's important because if the House impeaches and the Senate fails to convict with a 2/3 vote, the verdict of history is that Trump would be acquitted. That's the word, acquitted, which just might be enough to win him re-election and belittle the whole exercise. Richard Nixon knew he was going to be impeached and convicted. That's why he quit. Because the Democrats and enough Republicans were behaving as if they really weren't that happy about doing it. They looked grave when they voted for those articles of impeachment in the House Judiciary Committee. They, and that included the Democrats, looked like they were doing what needed to be done, not something that they relished doing. There was no cheering. And that's the way the Democrats and any Republicans that can be scared up would need to do it this time. And that's Hardball for now. Thanks for being with us.
See, and I'm going to put in my 2 cents. I think between the Republicans and the Democrats, they knowed by them putting in a wild card such as Trump that it was going to cause all this massive chaos, confusion, because they know that they have messed up with us being trillions and trillions and trillions of dollars in debt. This is all a planned conspiracy, indirectly, subconsciously, towards a bigger dilemma that will exceed this dilemma probably 100-1. And whenever they get to talking about civil war and get to talking about a revolutionary war, they have probably already done talked about this in hidden corners, realizing that this is probably what the end results is going to be in reformulating a brand new republic or a brand new government. Because this one has just about run its course. I hate to say it, but unless somebody can pull out a bunny rabbit out of the hat and declare a no-fault solution in faltering on our indebtedness to the degree of gracefully starting all over again, it looks like it's going to be a very, very strong, bloody road ahead, doesn't it? And that was the very thing that I predicted in 2005 that costed me about 4 days in a mental institution in Nashville, Tennessee, because I had sent the 43rd president a t-shirt indicating about the 4 horsemen, the apocalypse out of the Bible, and on the opposite side it read a bloody road ahead. So the government, not just the state of Tennessee, but the federal government has been pre-warned, going all the way to 205, about these oncoming events that are going to occur here in America. And I ain't just talking about the cop shootings. I ain't just talking about the school shootings. I'm just not talking about the nightclub shootings or the church shootings. I'm talking about something that's even going to escalate beyond even all of that. We have a group of people that has lost control. We have a group of people that don't know their ass from a hole in the ground. And the word ass is in the Bible. But we have walked off into the red zone. A dangerous, dangerous state of mind that we are in right now. And if you'll combine that with all the people on all the drugs and all the guns and all the jails being full, you have a recipe of the perfect storm that is now brewing over all of our heads. Plan to the pull to the plan. Good luck to all of us. Shalom. See ya.
All In with Chris Hayes starts right now.
Good evening from New York. I'm Chris Hayes. Breaking news at this hour. The special counsel, in a rare public statement, disputing BuzzFeed's blockbuster report that the president of the United States directed Michael Cohen, his former bagman, to lie to Congress about negotiations.
Sure, they're going to dispute it. Why would they not dispute it? Jesus, man, we was born at night, but it wasn't last night. Come on. Sure, they're going to dispute it. Just like everything else that's been disputed in this country that we take a blinded eye to.